guys, it's Thursday, September something, a couple weeks in, I don't know how many anymore, but it's the end of the week for me, but not for all the people who've been working on the house. I'll give you an update. Right back over here behind me, you will see we are out with the old and in with the new. Very exciting. We have a new electric panel. It is now properly piped up to the roof. You can see they have the wires. The wires are coming up and out. That's a much better structure than what we had previously. What was there previously was like this really crummy old box, and then the wires were coming off of it up to the main city lines, and they were all dry rotted. I was terrified that any day someone was going to walk by and grab it, and it was a live wire that would have shocked them pretty bad. But now, now we have new stuff, so that's all exciting. What else can I show you? Oh, when the plumbers were here this week, we started researching what this mysterious thing is in the ground. Not just the bricks. Do you see this? That was like a weird cast iron bubble, and there was one over here too. And so we dug it out and found that it was this. So this is like an old rusty metal bin. In fact, I'm gonna roll it right now over to the brick pile, and we will use it for a fire pit. The funnest part about this house for me is finding all the cool old stuff and figuring out how we can repurpose it. I don't know, I'm just a glutton for that, without being a hoarder. But nonetheless a glutton for preservation and reuse and recycling. This out here is still in scary conditions. This is the edge of the laundry room that is fallen down. So I think this weekend we might try and lift it up a little bit and rest it on some cinder blocks, so I can begin building the floor a little bit more steady inside there, and then I'm going to redo all these windows. Out here you can see we have this aluminum casing, which in old houses, like, on one hand it seems real nice because it's like water can't get in, just a good seal around here, and it should be alright. But oftentimes people put these on over wood that's already rotten, and so aside from the fact of what inspectors will think, obviously they don't like that. They come up and they take a little screwdriver and poke into it and find out it goes right through. So we don't want rotten wood windowsills. So I haven't taken these off yet, but I think these all feel pretty hardy under here, but I think there still may be a little moisture break in it. So what I'm going to do is wash all of them next week. We're going to vacuum it with a really small tool attachment for the shop vac, and then blow them out, and then bleach them out and clean them and come in with new silicone caulking so it can't leak. I really want these windows to be cleaned. I think everything needs a bit of a pressure cleaning. If you can see, these are all covered with a little bit of algae, which is deteriorates. Like here, look at the aluminum and look at the caulk. You can see that the caulk kind of grips on to the algae, or the algae rather grips onto the caulk sooner than onto the aluminum. And so it starts to really break it down. So I think if you're a homeowner, it's really important to make sure that you check the state of the caulking on your window periodically and redo it. The stuff isn't made to last forever, and it's not too hard to just update it. I mean, they didn't update this, so you can see so many places where it's just falling apart. And it didn't have to be. I mean, we could have preserved this house a little better. Let's see what else we got. All right, here inside, what once was a sort of weird back bedroom, we're converting now into the laundry room, mud room sort of thing. I'm thinking it can be a laundry room, mud room with a little space for like 2 chairs and a desk, and just a cute little hangout workroom. But we have a whole new box on a new part of the wall. The old one was over here. It was small, it was kind of bodged in. The new one is nice and big and clean, and here's where all the breakers will go in, and they are currently not, because these wires are going like this. The inspector is going to come either tomorrow or Monday to check what's called the rough in. When the electricians came through what they do is they run the wires everywhere that there's going to be outlets and switches. And so as we walk through the house, you'll see lots of outlets and switches. Scratch that. Okay, so when the electricians do the kind of work that they do, they start running, they pulled out a lot of the old wires, but not all of it. It wasn't entirely necessary. It was sort of like pulling up weeds. But they did put in new wire throughout. And so the next inspection we're going to get is on the rough-in. Rough-in means that the inspector is going to come check how they've wired stuff and what the mapping, the diagram is for the house, and if it's correct. And then from there, they'll put in the switches and the outlets. So right now, a lot of the switches and the outlets look a lot like this, where it's just a hole in the wall with the stuff coming out. But what's exciting about this, you guys, is that these are at standard heights, and they're together, and they're all up to code, and they're spaced in the correct frequency throughout the house. So that's a really big deal that this house didn't have before. And then we're taking a couple of outlets and making it so they're three-way outlets, meaning that you can, that's what you call an outlet when you can turn on a light on one side of the room or turn on the same light from the other side of the room with the switch. They started to put in all the apparatus to get the ceiling fans in there, and they'll be hanging down the wires through that later. And then, let's see, what else did we do this week? Just a lot of electric, and a lot of talking to a lot of contractors who did not show up. New idea on this window, though, the one that we love, that I love, is actually to kind of section off the top with like a little shutter at the top, and then from it hang in the middle of it some beautiful stained glass. That was courtesy of Jerry at Service Electric USA, who, by the way, I would super recommend for your residential electric needs if you're in northern Florida, because they're awesome. They've been great this week. There's all of our cool switches, as you can see, with this stuff reaching out. See, now this room right there, that, like this old switch that was down there, that's just too low. So that one, we'll just never use that again. I'll plug that up, and then that one's a new one. Every 12 inches is code. And they're a standard, I think 16 inches. The top of it is 16 inches from the floor. And then this room only had one outlet, and it was this one right down here on the floor. Ha! Look at it. It like this, don't worry about me touching it because there's no power to the house right now whatsoever. It's literally falling apart in my hands. Like this was the old electric. I kind of want to take that and put it on the antique table. But now we have these nice new units starting to come through, and they're all proper and they're up to code, and you can see they have this little ledge here because they are just ready and waiting for me to put the sheetrock in here. But we can't put sheetrock in until A, the electricity gets the rough-in inspection. Then B, I'm gonna get the floors a little level, and if I'm gonna do anything to sort of rock anything foundationally or in a big way, I'm gonna try and do that next week. And then as soon as that's done, then I'll seal the windows and put the drywall up on the walls and the ceilings as needed. And then the electric will come back in and put in the plates and the plugs. So some part of me sort of thought this place would have all those this week, but I was very naive, and now I'm learning. Oh, there's one other thing I want to show you. This is going to be cool. This is an old spot that there was a light on the wall, and we're going to put a new sconce. I'm so excited. And I found out that this wall is the old wainscoting with the chair rail, and then this on top of it is actually a wood panel, which is not an uncommon way to cover the old plaster, because the plaster, you can see, starts to get cracks in it. It's pretty hard to take down, as I found out, and so it was not uncommon for people to also put plywood over it. So, yeah, I guess is it kind of plywood, maybe just thin wood. They had little tiny tacks they would put down and mud them up. Now we have adhesive, so I'm going to replace this wall with that paneling and then redo the wainscoting and put the chair level at the same place. Because I don't know if you can see in this video, but across there in the room, you can see the baseboard is actually going like down. It's like 3 inches up there, and then it's like an inch and a half down there. So what I realized this week when I found this gigantic, terrifying water spot in the middle of the room, which we were calling the water ghost, is that this floor probably has 3 layers of floor. It has the original oak planking, and then in about sometime between the 40s and the 60s, they put new, thinner tongue and groove oak planking again, and then they nastied it all by adding adhesive to it to put the carpet on it. But then this one, in this room, in the other room, they put an extra layer of subfloor on, and they probably just put little like shims in there to get it so the floor is level, even though the building is still falling down. So there's a couple of ways you could deal with that kind of uneven foundation, right? You could try and lift the foundation, which lots of times in these old houses is a house of cards kind of issue. If you lift the old foundation, suddenly you'll find everything else falling apart. Or you can just find creative ways to make the floors level. This place, it's being generous to say that what they did was creative, but they did make things try to kind of work as much as they could, obviously, with what they had. So I really want to lift up some of the corners of this house. But let me show you the thing I was excited about. I'm sorry, I get distracted. We found more things this week. So here's our ever-growing bottle collection from underneath the house. This little blue one is kind of interesting because it's a very thick glass. And someone was telling me that actually the clear glass versus the colored glass used to get thrown into outhouses. And so lots of times as they're digging up the streets here, they'll find these old bottles. And the dark bottles contained poison where the light bottles contained medicine. And because they didn't know what to do with them when they were done, they just dumped them in the outhouses. And then they rotate the outhouses periodically so they have new spots. So when you find these bottles, there's a good chance that they've been preserved for a while in a not fun substance. And then this one, here's like an old cigar box we found up in the attic. Here's the old mailbox from the front door. And then the fishing poles that we found in the bushes. Probably when somebody stole them from someone else and hid them on our property. Life. So that's it for this week. Oh, and a new friend that we found, thank you, Goodwill, was this dehumidifier, which last night in the course of one evening completely filled up. So that's great. I can't wait to have electricity back to the property and just run it all the time and continue to pull more moisture out of this house. Probably pulling moisture out of all of Florida, to be honest with you, but pretty excited. Now I have a huge order to go place with Lowe's, and I gotta get back to go see Papa. Thanks, guys. Fun having you with us this week.